A few years back, I made a video about what I'd now consider my favorite game ever released, Outer Wilds, discussing how it perfectly ties gameplay mechanics to narrative, even down to its foundational inevitability of only really meriting a single playthrough. That would act as a useful primer for this video, so I'd recommend giving that a watch first, linked above and below. And moreover, if you haven't played Outer Wilds, and indeed the paid DLC Echoes of the Eye, I would strongly recommend doing so, as I'll inevitably be spoiling their plots here. If you've beaten them, or seen them played, or have no intention of ever giving them a go, then welcome aboard. So, assuming we're all good, I'll continue. Outer Wilds is a game about solving a time loop in which after 22-ish minutes, the sun in your solar system explodes, resetting you back in time through way of sending your memories backwards. It's an exploration of inevitability, of piecing together fragments of a lost past and potential future, and a study on acceptance of death itself. It's such a self-contained package of a game that, frankly, the very announcement of a DLC for it worried me. The idea of throwing a wrench into what I considered a complete story, which by its very design cannot have a post-game, was concerning. But they pulled it off, and using the framework created by its base game, Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye takes a look at, rather than accepting death, the aftermath of cultural death. This is done through the lens of a new, unnamed species. I'll be referring to them as the inhabitants. A new, optional planetary body is added via Echoes, and in order to seamlessly integrate it into the solar system without giving DLC-less players a less fleshed-out planetary family, the Stranger, so it's called, is cloaked, hidden from view and presumed to still be present regardless of one's purchase of supplementary content. Through a fun little adventure in satellite tracking and a puzzle therein, the player discovers the existence of the Stranger, and upon first approach, this DLC's darker tone rings true. A menacing dot of nothingness eclipses the sun, and the closer you approach, the less light you can make out, until finally at point-blank range, the shape of the body comes into view. While playing through this expansion my first go-around, I referred to the Stranger's interior as an indoor halo, in that it's an artificial environment, green and lush, at least to a point, but masked in glass and artificial light panels to simulate a more natural world. Looking up shows you what you'd see exactly halfway around this swampy sphere, and rivers populated by rafts make travel around the world a linear breeze. The waves of time have obviously had their go at this habitat, with worn-down houses and a dam in dire need of repair, eventually bursting later into the loop, flooding walkways and collapsing structures. The Stranger is entirely unlike any other planetary body in Outer Wilds, and for good reason. Its story is self-contained, as too should its gameplay be. The tale told here does connect to the main plot, but not as a requirement. Essentially, upon entering the Stranger, you have stopped playing Outer Wilds and started playing Echoes of the Eye. The first thing I noticed upon engaging with this strange new world is untranslatable writing scrawled on signage. Using instincts of the game's core mechanic, translation of the ancient Nomai language, my first major goal while bumbling around the structure was to find a way to translate this text. For all I knew, the words could be a simple welcome, directions to facilities of interest, or a caution of deadly radiation. There's a reason symbology is used for real-world hazard sites. Ingeniously, seeking translation is a fool's errand. You quickly learn that the main currency of knowledge available to you in the Stranger is through projection slides, photographs, snapshots of reality. Translation is unviable not just because of a lack of sample size and indeed the time required for a linguist to work out a cipher, but also a lack of speakers to corroborate with. There's nobody here. The Stranger seems fully automated and unoccupied, though absence of apparent remains of the inhabitants, combined with the spooky atmosphere inherent to the old creaky wooden houses, sharp branches, and dark corridors, leads one to wonder what may be lurking in the dark. Through experimentation, the player will work out placing a lantern and a reel and projector will allow them to view memories of the inhabitants. At least, mostly. Several reels you'll find laying around will have fire damage, and it's hard to tell if this is from the slow march of time or a deliberate masking of information. No translations, no complete picture, and no people. The Stranger seemingly doesn't want to be understood, but why is that? What good comes from a new anomaly being introduced to the player's understanding of Outer Wilds' solar system that is trying this hard to hide its purpose? Outer Wilds is generally about solving a mystery. The contents of said mystery I've discussed before, but are secondary to my point. However, the important difference between the main title and Echoes of the Eye is the desire of knowledge to be shared. Everyone you meet in Outer Wilds' main campaign wants to know what's going on. The townsfolk are excited about space travel. The people running the museum are happy to have a working translator, and even the one living Nomai you meet is eager to share any knowledge he can with you. Echoes of the Eye takes a different approach. It's still a mystery, putting together pieces of history by exploring and creating a timeline in your head, assisted by the ship's computer. But this isn't a lost history, it's a destroyed one. This is a history that does not want to be told. If Outer Wilds is a trial in repairing and transcribing an historic document, whether worn and tattered, Echoes of the Eye is putting the pieces of a shredded one back together. The very act of hiding knowledge is itself compelling. The more you try to withdraw information from being free, the further people will go to reclaim it. And who better to find the truth than a teenaged alien who's already died a couple hundred goes around and has literally infinite time to explore. So the longer you explore the stranger, the more knowledge you gain, but the screaming silence of its absence is in and of itself telling. The further you go, the less the concept of coincidence can hide how deliberate the burnt-out reels, the locked doors, and the hidden rooms truly are. When you're looking for it, you can see how very specific slides and even certain sections therein are destroyed. Whoever was responsible wasn't trying to destroy all of the inhabitants' culture, but rather augment it, to tell a sanitized version of history. Eventually, your research lands you on an unsettling revelation. The inhabitants of the stranger are in fact still here, in a sense. Their collective corpses are found huddled around fireplaces in secret rooms, left untouched for who knows how many years. Seemingly a perfect number of chambers house the former occupants, save for one. A concerning absence. This both serves as a great addition to the horror atmosphere, the very idea that there's still one living creature whose intentions are unknown lurking around, but also a beacon of hope. Maybe not all of the history is lost. Through several loops in this loop, eventually you'll discover the laboratory. Here it's shown that one of the various artifacts you can find scattered around, their meaning up until now unclear, can be used in some kind of fireplace ritual. Of course, the catch being the only fireplaces to test this on are surrounded by skeletons of the inhabitants. Braving the fear of being attacked, the player will find themselves in another world, one which is similar to, but distinctly more dreamlike than, the stranger itself. It is in here that the thesis of my video lies. Copies, digital backups of the burnt-out reels are present in this dream world. The catch is, these forbidden caches of knowledge are guarded by what appear to be living versions of the inhabitants, and they do not wish for an interloper to unveil them. The horror of Echoes of the Eye, which up until now has been aesthetic, now becomes true survival. Coinciding with this, the prevention of shared knowledge has gone from passive, book burning and paving over obvious cracks, to active, seeking to eliminate anyone who dare tries to bring the knowledge to the light. Still, once you eventually outwit the guards and locate the vaults, you learn a more complete truth through way of projection. This is the story this clan of people, presumably not their entire species, didn't want told. The inhabitants are, or in a sense were, a race of people from a moon in another solar system altogether. One day, they heard the call of the Eye of the Universe, the crux of Outer Wilds, and their quest to understand it demanded they dedicate their resources to space travel. In building the stranger, the moon they lived upon was raised. Rather than dedicate time and effort to improving the world they had damaged, with astral adventures as added scientific curiosity, they would rather invest in space travel as an escape of their broken world and to move on to another. However, upon reaching the Eye, their understanding of its potential to shatter and restart the universe turned their curiosity to rage. They felt tricked by the Eye's this call and vowed to stop any species from using the Eye to destroy all extant life. They built a signal scrambler, making the Eye's location theoretically untraceable, unless you somehow gave yourself infinite time to search. And now, well, what now for the inhabitants? They invested everything from their home into this search, and now have dedicated themselves to guarding the Eye from anyone who would ever dare use it. Instead of converting their vast knowledge and, as a result of past actions, now dwindling resources into perhaps visiting other planets in the system, starting a new life, they chose to put their efforts into a virtual reality, arguing it to be the solution to a world made uninhabitable. Not to get too metaphorical, so the situation as such is shown twofold. One is the truth I just told, made available at great risk to the player, and the other is the story they want told. As if the cloak wasn't enough of a sign they wished to not be disturbed or indeed remembered, they chose to burn away any indication that their construction of the stranger's search for the Eye, blocking of its signal, and retreat into a fantasy world was at best naive and reality vastly destructive, not just to themselves, but anyone who may, say, really need to find the Eye when the old universe is having a blue screen and needs to reboot. With these discrepancies in the reels discovered, the intentions are laid bare. The empty shelves of reels aren't from a lack of history, but a removal. The records burned to ash, and the only ones left behind telling a very clean, linear timeline, painting them as innocent victims rather than perpetrators. Any signs of their destroyed old world or them being responsible for the masking of the Eye's signal was hidden, their mistakes buried rather than faced, escaping to a cheap recreation of their idealized version of the past. Their desire for a better life led them to a destruction of their past, and their desire for their past led them to a destruction of any potential for a better life. All the while, any lessons to be garnered from their hasty and flawed decision-making are literally burned away, ensuring the cycle of ignorance will repeat ad infinitum until the knowledge is let free. Remember that one inhabitant who was missing from their chamber? It turns out they agree with the protagonists that just pretending past mistakes didn't happen is wrong. They wake from their virtual slumber, sneak over to the controls for the signal blocker, and let the Eye's signal loose. For a brief moment, the call from the universe's reset button is set free for any species advanced enough to hear it and draw their own conclusions. And as such, they are immediately arrested, imprisoned, and any scrap of proof as to their actions or even their very existence is removed from the archive. And upon finally discovering the whole truth, what have you, the player, accomplished? Nothing. No tangible thing. The loop resets and you've gained the knowledge for its own sake. Echoes of the Eye doesn't add some new exciting ship or upgrade to your jetpack. You don't unlock a cool secret ending where you stop the time loop without ending the universe, saving everyone in a utopia. The DLC isn't transformative, it's narratively additive. The goal of Outer Wilds, if you really need to boil it down to a purpose, is to end the time loop and give a new universe a chance to live. The goal of Echoes of the Eye is simply to understand, to uncover bones of a buried past, to learn why the inhabitants did what they've done, and potentially to learn from their mistakes. Perhaps apt, the only way to be told the whole unbridled truth is to die. You cannot meet with the prisoner within the virtual world and hear the full story unless you let yourself die, meaning the moment you try to leave the simulation, you'll be met with a new time loop. So there's no ending in which you can meet the prisoner and then beat the game in the same loop. However, completing the story of Echoes of the Eye makes an alteration to Outer Wilds' ending. As you gather all your friends, all the components you wish to gently guide the new universe with as it's born from the ashes of your dying one, the prisoner meets and is finally able to directly speak with you. They warn that the decision to take the knowledge of the inhabitants and the actions carried out by their clan into the new universe is to allow their fear and consequences of their actions into the mix. And you get a choice of allowing the inhabitants' memory to become an ingredient of the new universe or let their memory burn away, their mistakes forgotten. To remember history is not to glorify it equally. An accurate and informative telling of history should include recounting of the worst of a people, with weight given to horrific actions of the past. Memories of a good done by a people should never take priority over memories of the bad. One deserves praise and the other merits none, but rather teachings to prevent their repetition. So, do you start over with no acknowledgement of objective atrocities performed in the past, or let the knowledge be free to better inform tomorrow? Which would you choose? Thanks for watching, and take it easy.